Good morning, everyone. This is Let's Talk Sports with Tim McCain, and today is called Women's Sports Wednesday. And we also are going to be talking about some current events as well. So, the first thing I want to talk about today is I want to talk about the Cowboys. See, I'm in my Cowboy gear right now. I'm a Cowboy fan. Ain't no lies here, man. But what's going on right now is DeMarcus Lawrence, the defensive end, had 10.5 sacks last year. He actually has decided that he is going to withhold his body himself over for the Cowboys because basically the Cowboys ain't paying him. The Cowboys do not want to pay. For some reason, the Cowboys, and they have a history of this, especially Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, he's a great businessman, but he likes to withhold the check from ball players. And DeMarcus Lawrence is one of those people who he's trying to hold the bag from. I wouldn't say he's trying to hold the bag. No, he's trying to hold the bag so he can potentially pay others or pay others to his liking. And so I believe that he's going to try to pay Dak Prescott a huge amount of money, potentially $25 to $30 million, even though Dak Prescott is only he's never passed for over 25 passing touchdowns. I mean, he's had over 30 combined touchdowns. But for him to make good money this year, this is the year where he has to do something. But back to DeMarcus Lawrence. I believe this brother should be paid. This brother is one of the faces of the Cowboys defense, and the Cowboys need him. If the Cowboys do not have DeMarcus Lawrence, they're going to struggle on the defensive end of the ball, and we need to have our full arsenal of defenders. We have, of course, Vander Esch and Jalen Smith, but they can't do it by themselves. DeMarcus Lawrence is definitely somebody who's definitely needed. And then, Tyron Crawford, I know he had an issue recently. I think there was, I'm not sure specifically what the issue was, but he had an issue legally. And so I believe that, I'm not sure if he's going to, how the NFL is going to handle that. But I do know that David Irving, he retired from the NFL because of a weed problem. And then Randy Gregory also had a weed problem. And the NFL definitely has some of those traditional views when it comes to not smoking on the workforce, which, is acceptable. You shouldn't really be smoking in the workforce. If you want to smoke on your own free time, that's up to you. But if you do it on your job, that's another thing that can kind of be like, yo, you're messing with people's money because people made an investment. But that just means that you should pay Lawrence because Lawrence is going to be that guy. If Lawrence were to just take the franchise tag and he'd be the only guy on the defense who really would be that guy, he's going to take a beating. So why would he, if I'm DeMarcus Lawrence, why would I give money? Why would I sacrifice my body and lose money because all the attention is going to come on me? Whereas if you're the Cowboys, you're like, well, hey, look, he's going to be the only guy. I mean, if we can franchise him, we can save some money because if he gets hurt, I mean, it's franchise tag and we don't have to spend a lot of money on an injured player. And he's like 28, 29 years old. So it's like, well, in that case, we shouldn't have to pay him. But I think the Cowboys should pay him because he's an incredible player. He's been good for the Cowboys. So I say pay him. I say pay him what he wants. I say pay him $18 million. $18 million a year. That's $18 to $20 million a year. That's the highest I'm going if I'm the Cowboys. 18 to $20 million. Because he's a star, but he's not a superstar. He's not like Aaron Donald. So that's something too. He's not Aaron Donald. So that's that point about the Cowboys. The second thing I want to talk about is the NFL. What they basically did, they made a rule change so where coaches can now challenge pass interference calls as well as non-calls, similar to what happened with the New Orleans Saints when they were basically robbed of going to the Super Bowl championship. I'm not saying they would have won, because I think Drew Brees kind of slowed. He really did. If you really looked at his stats, if we looked at his composure and how he worked around the offense, he was not the same since the Cowboys shook him up. Honestly, he was not that same guy. But I mean, a lot of Saints fans believe that they were robbed, and they were, but they wouldn't have beaten Tom Brady. Tom Brady and the Patriots, they were on a mission to get 6 championships. Which that actually is my next topic, which is Rob Gronkowski, who actually retired from the NFL. Now, this is something that is probably necessary because, to be honest with you, he was old. And when I say old, I'm talking about when it comes to his body. Because, of course, he's 29 years old, but he's 6'6", 270 pounds. This man was one of the hardest tight ends to stop ever. And since he was so big, guys had to go at him and probably hurt him to bring him down. And so basically he's walking around. He's 29 years old, but basically he's walking around like he's a 40-year-old because he's taking beating after beating after beating. And, the NFL is like, when you're hitting someone, it's like a car crash. And so that's what I believe would happen with, of course, Rob Gronkowski. But shout out to him. He's the most dominant tight end in NFL history. He's like the Shaq of tight ends. I call him the Shaq of tight ends because he was hard to bring down. Okay. The next topic I want to talk about for the Women's Sports Wednesday is, her name is Francesca Belbis. She is the second woman to win a McDonald's All-American Dunk Contest. Now, she had 3 dunks. She had a baseline reverse dunk, which I thought was her best dunk, in my opinion. Then she had the dunk off the backboard, which was nice. And then she dunked over someone sitting in a chair. Now, it's always impressive to see women dunking. And now we're seeing more and more women dunking in the league. Last year, there was Olivia Ogden or something like that. She also dunked with Zion Williamson when he dunked, and he ultimately won. But this year, Francesca Belbis won, and she's actually going to, I believe, Stanford this year. And so they're going to be really fun to watch because, she's going to be throwing them alleys, man. Hey, if y'all like women's basketball, check out Stanford. They're going to be legit. They also have the #1 recruit in the nation, Haley Jones. So it's definitely going to be something special. For the Sweet 16, it's going to be happening this Friday. There's a few matchups that I want to talk about, specifically UConn versus UCLA, and as well as South Carolina and Baylor. So when it comes to UConn's nasty, man. UConn, of course, has Collier. They have a lot of great players on their team, but Collier's that person. Of course, can't forget Katie Lou Samuelson, but Collier's that baller that she does incredible things. So I believe that they will do something, but the guard play of UCLA could be a potential problem for UConn. Don't sleep on UCLA. The next game, South Carolina versus Baylor. Now, South Carolina, they've won a championship before, okay, with Aja Wilson, okay. I believe that could be a potential problem for #1 Baylor. Of course, they're ranked number 1, but the Gamecocks, man, they're ready. They're charged. They have not been getting the recognition they deserve, and they're coming. They're coming. If I look at some of the players, now, of course, Baylor has Kalani Brown and Lauren Cox, and it's going to be a problem but I'm telling you, man, South Carolina, they got guard play too. Micaiah Herbert, Alexis Jennings, I'm telling you, these ladies can ball, and it's going to be something special. The next topic I want to talk about specifically is I want to talk about WNBA. So I was reading an article about pay gap and pay wages and stuff like that. And I was doing some research on what the WNBA could do to get more recognition. So part of me thought about ways of like marketing-wise and maybe making it somewhat of like a culture. Like a lot of what makes the NBA fun isn't just the fact that they can fill up seats. It's a part of black culture. It's part of pop culture in a sense. And so I was like, well, maybe they could be in songs. Maybe they can be in movies. Then I'm thinking, well, what about the kids? What if WNBA players would have an organization where they would teach young girls how to play basketball? Because at the end of the day, women make the highest paid woman in American basketball makes $110,000. Okay, that's good money, but that's not enough when it comes to how much you're working compared to the men. So a lot of women, to really get paid, they have to pay in 2 leagues. And I truly believe that if we increase marketing wise to schools, to teaching young girls how to play basketball, to potential pop culture, and to making, I don't know, I just feel like culture is something that is definitely important. And there's actually an article where one of the ball players were talking about ways to improve it, and she was talking about even the jerseys, and I forgot what her name was, but she was basically was talking about how there was like fidelity on one of the jerseys, and it wasn't cool. If you could make the jerseys cool, if you could make enough money to actually market to schools and to people who are actually invested in the WNBA, because a lot of time the American superstars are in Europe. Diana Taurasi, who's arguably the greatest women basketball player of all time, left. She did not play a season in the WNBA because Russia gave her $1 million. Would you play in the WNBA for $100,000 if you go to Europe and get $1 million? I don't think so. And so I truly believe that if we make WNBA about pop culture, if we make it where it's the jerseys are cool, and we make it where WNBA players are more visible to young girls, because I'm telling you, if you can make a sport where women actually like going to games, like Los Angeles Sparks, and not just buy tickets to just a game, but to buy season tickets, because let's just face it, a lot of men are not going to want to watch. A lot of men haven't been watching, but I believe that if you can increase the volume in women, in young women, investing in young women and teaching them how to play basketball, somehow being a part of pop culture, Cardi B, all these other artists, there could be potentially something there. There are some men that, that would watch it. Especially if you look at a lot of the ball players, a lot of the professional ball players support the WNBA. So I think that's cool. But I think another thing too, it would be cool for them if they went to some of these games and they took pictures of, hey, look, I'm here at this game right quick, or I'm meeting with this player right quick. So that way it gets a certain kind of clout. So, but this is some of the things that I've been thinking about, and some of the things that I believe could potentially help the WNBA. So this is Let's Talk Sports with Tim McCain, and go Cowboys, and have a good one.